Child abuse is a significant problem in Lane County. It's a kind of problem that I think all of us care about, but it's hard to, I think, to turn toward it, and so, which makes it, I think, difficult to try to resolve.
In Lane County, the issue of child abuse is as large as it is across Oregon and across the nation, meaning that about 1 in 3 kids experiences either neglect or abuse during childhood, so it's huge.
We have done some data collection to get a better sense of the actual rates of child abuse and neglect. And when asked in Lane County, when we asked adults, have you had a child abuse or neglect experience, which included seeing or hearing domestic violence in their childhood, 35% of Lane County adults said that was true for them. And if you take that number out, that's about 100,000 Lane County residents living in our community today.
I think there's some misunderstanding about the actual issue of child abuse and neglect. Most child abuse is neglect. So about 70% of the cases that we know about in Lane County, for instance, are cases where kids are neglected, not supervised, or have parents who can't take care of them in some way, have trouble with some basic needs, food, shelter, etc., or good supervision or good support at home. So I think a lot of people think of child abuse by the headlines. If there's a death of a child or a kidnapping of a child, which is actually rare, but that's what people think of because that's what the news shows us. But most child abuse is neglect, although physical abuse, emotional abuse, and sexual abuse are certainly part of children's experience in Lane County that we want to address.
I think the reason child abuse happens is because parents don't have the support that they need. And it's really easy when there's child abuse to blame the parent and to demonize them without understanding the broader context that has created the situation. And so more support for parents, I would say, is the number one thing that the community can do to prevent child abuse. But also advocating for children in those situations. Yeah, and sometimes that can be something really simple like validating a child. It doesn't always have to be notifying the authorities or some big thing. It can just be something really simple like validating a child and their feelings.
90 by 30 actually began as a question, and the question is, imagine it's December 31st, 2030, and in our community, Lane County specifically, we've been successful in reducing child abuse and neglect. What have we done, and what do we need to do right now? So it began as a question, and there was a tremendous amount of interest in our public, and so then it became a single aspirational goal. So our aim is to reduce child abuse and neglect 90% by 2030 in Lane County, Oregon.
I got involved in 90 by 30 because I've spent a lifetime, my entire adult life, working on the intervention after the fact of child abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault. And I've been working on this issue in Oregon since 1984 and saw no end to the need.
We're trying to do a couple of things to draw on the best of what we already do in our community. We are in a rich place with people who care, with many organizations who are working to support kids and families. We have so much, so we're in a rich place, and we're trying to pool those efforts and align them more intentionally. And so that's part of it. And then the other is to try to help all people in our community see what their role is. So I might not be working in a nonprofit organization, for instance, but I'm a neighbor and I live in this place and I'm walking around, and it's that group in particular that we're working to tap and to bring them in to get a better sense of what I can do as an individual walking around in my world, whatever my role is in this place. That's what we're working to do.
90 by 30 allows us to look from a community perspective at families and their needs, to begin to form relationships and supports before we would normally see them entering kindergarten.
When we talk about the work of 90 by 30, we talk about it as moving upstream, that we're working on preventing child abuse upstream. And people say, what does that mean? And what we mean is, when you look downstream, you see people drowning in a river, and all the focus is on saving them, pulling them out, throwing them life jackets. But what we want to do is prevent them from being in the river in the first place. Build a bridge, identify why people are in the river, prevent them from ever being in the river, prevent the problem from ever happening, stopping it from ever happening in the first place. That's how we're approaching child abuse prevention.
And we're drawing on evidence-based practice, and especially we're also drawing on community wisdom toward working together to reduce child abuse and neglect. We think that really the only way to get there toward a significant reduction is to deeply engage the local community.
The way we're organized is across all of Lane County. We believe in community-led efforts. We have many communities in Lane County, all unique. So each of the communities in Lane County belong to one of 7 regions, and those regions are deciding for themselves what blend of strategies they think will work best in preventing child abuse and neglect in their own neighborhoods and in their own communities.
Part of my job is to reach out to the community and to cultivate and to be involved with partnerships, especially partnerships that promote families and children. And so we heard about the very early beginnings of 90 by 30 at U of O, and heard about the bringing together of kind of a community to look at this issue. And so the city's been involved from the start, and so that's how I got involved, really representing the public library and the community center. Again, looking for ways to partner with groups like Ana Maria's, like all the groups in town that are working so hard to provide opportunities for children and families. We looked at many different strategies that we could consider implementing, and many of us have attended the 90 by 30 annual conference, where there have been amazing guest speakers from around the world, from Australia, from Europe, and so it's been inspiring to hear what other cultures and people have been doing and what's been successful.
One of the things that I learned was very important is breaking isolation in rural communities. And while isolation can happen even in the densest cities, it was a particular problem in rural communities, both because of no transportation simply to get places, but also there not being places to go. Very few social opportunities or great distances to get them were really barriers for families to be able to take a break.
It's important, we believe, to seek public opinion in getting much more clear about how we work together to reduce child abuse and neglect. So we've taken a lot of time to listen and seek input. We've had conversations now with over 10,000 Lane County residents. We've learned that 98% of local residents agree or strongly agree that one of the core responsibilities of adulthood is to ensure that all kids are safe. We also have learned that nearly 85% of the general public believes that we can significantly reduce child abuse and neglect, but only 34% believe that we will. And that's where we think the work is, to make it more clear about how we get from that lower percentage to achieving this goal.
I think we were very careful in how we chose what we were going to do, because we wanted it to be friendly, welcoming, non-threatening. We wanted it to be a gift. We wanted to be able to be joyful with the families. And what better way than to come up with this incredible gift of the baby box, which is very successful in Europe. And for us to be able to bring it to our small South Lane community, it's incredible. And I know that we will be successful in the fundraising, and that this will happen, to be able to bring the families to the community, to different places where they can come with their babies, their families, and to have the support of all the people in our community, all the agencies that we're working together, Peace Health, the Relief Nursery, Family Resource Center, child care centers. Everybody is excited because it tells these families, you are important, your baby is important.
The reason 90 by 30 is housed at the University of Oregon is because doing the research and the evaluation of our effort is vital, because we want what we've learned to go elsewhere. We've already been contacted by other counties in Oregon, other states, even other countries, to say, is this a model we can use? And we want to be able to say, here's what worked, and we know why. Here's what didn't work. Here's some mistakes we made, and have something that can be used elsewhere, because the goal is global.
We are together. We are linked with the goal of the child abuse prevention. And the circle has been formed, and I think we have formed it around the families.
We'll be successful in reducing child abuse 90% by the year 2030 because people will have come forth. They will have found their voice, they will have found their role, they'll find a strategy that fit for them to spend their time, and because of all of the people across all of Lane County working together, we will meet that goal.